don't care what happened tonight. USC, in my mind, absolutely should be in the college football playoff. Because if you're saying Ohio State should be in, if you're saying Ohio State should replace the Trojans as right now the fourth team in the college football playoff, here's what you're saying. Here's your message to myself, to the rest of the country, if that's your argument that Ohio State should replace USC. You are saying that USC should be punished for right now being better than Ohio State. That's the message that's being sent. Oh, the USC, should be punished, should be knocked down for the fact that through the regular season, they were a better team than the Buckeyes. I'm not in that camp. No way. I know it was ugly. I know Caleb Williams got hurt. We'll get down here in a little bit. But to me, Friday night and the result that we saw in Las Vegas does not change my opinion on the Trojans in terms of being college football playoff contenders. They, to me, should be one of the four teams competing for a national title starting on December 31st. They should be in the college football playoff. Because I don't think you can punish the Trojans for playing in a game that Ohio State was not good enough to make. That's the thing. USC was in their conference championship. Ohio State was not good enough to make their conference championship. And that's the reality. Again, if you are pushing Ohio State and saying USC is out, their season's over, they are not worthy of being in the college football playoff, you are saying Ohio State, despite the fact that they were not good enough to make their own conference championship, they're still good enough and still worthy enough of jumping over USC, who had to play an extra game, and that the Buckeyes should benefit from spending the weekend on the couch. The Buckeyes should benefit from sitting at home while other teams like USC, along with TCU, Michigan, and Georgia, are competing for an extra game. Why would anyone be in the camp? Why would you be in the camp of trying to reward a team like Ohio State for sitting at home and doing nothing? Ohio State is playing as much football as you and me this weekend. And look, if you're playing a family football game, kudos to you. You're still playing then, in that case, more meaningful football than Ohio State is this weekend. So why would you want, on the biggest weekend so far, or the final, let's say, final weekend of college football, you can actually make a push to the Final Four, play a game that actually matters. Why would you want to reward a team that wasn't good enough to earn the right to have the privilege to play a 13th game? I'm not doing it. I don't want to reward a team like Ohio State in this specific year with how things have gone this year. With the topsy-turviness, with a lot of upsets, with really no one separating themselves outside of Georgia and Michigan. It's been a whole lot of teams kind of stuck in the middle. So we're trying to pick apart teams that are all kind of in the same pool. One of the first things to look at is, okay, USC was good enough to make their conference championship. Ohio State was not. USC was good enough to play an extra game in the first weekend of December. Ohio State was not. So I'm not going to criticize. I'm not going to crush USC for earning the right and then losing a game, an extra game, that, again, Ohio State was not good enough to partake in. Because here's what I know. When everything was equal, when we talk about the regular season, right? When we talk equal, the full 12 games in the regular season that every team is guaranteed to have. In that regular season, where everything was equal, USC showed they were the better team, and guess what? The committee agreed. The College Football Playoff Committee, the deciders of the four teams in the College Football Playoff, agreed with everything equal. 12, every team playing 12 games, they looked at the body of work USC had, they looked at the body of work Ohio State had, and they thought USC was the better team. They voted the Trojans fourth. And this latest college football playoff ranking, they had Ohio State fifth. You look at a conference breakdown. USC was able to grab the top spot in the Pac-12. You had the Buckeyes finish second in their own division behind Michigan. And before we even go any further here, this is not your grandfather's Pac-12 conference. This was not a Pac-12 conference full of middling football teams and laughingstocks. This Pac-12 was deep and really talented this season. Look at the final rankings here. Look at this last week's rankings, where, again, you're taking into account all 12 regular season games, all 13 weeks of college football. Do you know how the most teams right now in this current iteration of the college football playoff, who had the most conference-wise, which conference are the most teams ranked? SEC, what a shock. But guess who's tied with the SEC with 6? The Pac-12. That's right. The Pac-12 Conference has 6 teams right now in the top 25, the same amount as the SEC. 3 more than the Big Ten has. So I don't really see an argument for putting Ohio State in. And I'm here to hear your explanation at 855-212-4227. If you can explain to me why you think Ohio State, despite the fact that they were not good enough to make their conference championship, the fact that they were not playing this weekend, why they deserve to be in over USC, I'm all ears. I'll hear it, but I just don't see right now how you can make that case. I don't believe this year specifically, with how it's played out, that USC should be punished for playing an extra game that Ohio State did not play in. I get what you're going to say if you're a USC detractor or you are a USC doubter. Right? We saw it. They got smoked. I'm not going to hide from that. USC absolutely got smoked by Utah on Friday, losing by 23 points. Inexcusable. Right? Caleb Williams got hurt, which really did hamper their offense. The defense just flat out sucks. I mean, I'll be honest. Even though I'm sitting here kind of advocating for USC to make the College World Playoff, I've been picking against USC the last 3 or 4 weeks because their defense was so bad that I just did not think that you can really rely on one person in Caleb Williams to carry you to victory in each and every week. And to his credit, Caleb Williams' credit so far, that is, he was able to do that in the regular season, and they were able to get through to be 11-1. So the defense sucks. Offensive defensive lines are shaky. Again, Caleb Williams got hurt. But here's the thing. While it was ugly on Friday night for the Trojans in Las Vegas, how do we know the same thing wouldn't happen to Ohio State? How could we truly sit here and say, oh yeah, they would put up a bigger fight? Because the last time we saw Ohio State play a similarly tough team in Michigan, they got mollywopped. They lost on their home field by 22 points. They got bullied by Michigan, who, by the way, was missing their best player in Blake Corum and potentially is going to be a Heisman finalist. He didn't play. He did play. He had 2 carries, didn't have any sort of production whatsoever. You had a running back in Donovan Edwards playing with, it's not, diagnosed, but looked like to me a broken hand. Running for over 200 yards. You're letting guys run wide open in the secondary all game long. How do we know that if Ohio State had a 13th game, if they were somehow in the Big Ten Championship, let's say the Big Ten, how about this? What if the Big Ten adopted the same sort of philosophy that the Pac-12 does, where the top 2 teams, regardless of division, make the conference championship? That would mean Ohio State would face Michigan in the conference championship later today in Indianapolis. Does anyone really think that we'll see that much of a difference between Ohio State and Michigan 1 week later? So, well, yes, we can bang on USC and say, oh, they got embarrassed and you can't have a team like that play like that and put them in the College World Playoff. Why are we giving the benefit of the doubt to Ohio State that they would perform much better? Where have they showed you that this year? USC got bullied on Friday night, absolutely. Ohio State got bullied last Saturday at home. So I don't see why, again, to me, Ohio State deserves the benefit of the doubt that they are this better team than USC. Again, through the regular season, we saw what the committee said. We saw the rankings. We saw they both were 11-1, and the committee valued USC's overall body of work more than Ohio State, which is why they ranked them 1 spot higher. I'm not changing my thoughts on USC and their College World Playoff standing because they played and earned the right to play in an extra game that Ohio State, again, could not qualify for. Failed to qualify for, unlike USC. So when you make your conference championship game, that has to mean something. Like we talk about, right? When we talk about a 14 playoff, we talk about what? The regular season has to matter. Conference championship games and conference championships have to matter. Well, then so does making your conference championship. Because if you're going to get on USC for losing in their conference championship, we got also equally get on Ohio State for not making theirs. For not taking what should have been a home win against Michigan after a hot start and finishing the job. That's to me why I would put USC still in over Ohio State. And not to mention, I think the Caleb Williams injury, when making a case for USC, actually works in their favor more than against it. Because look, Caleb Williams got off to a very hot start. USC was up 14-3. He makes a big time run. Slides down awkwardly, hurts his knee. As you could tell, his knee got worse throughout the game. His hand is bleeding, and the limp only becomes more pronounced. And by the end of the game, he could barely run, barely move out of the pocket. But not being a doctor, I would presume if he was able to finish the game like he was, Caleb Williams was, I would assume then in a month, he should be pretty much 100% or close to it for a college football playoff semifinal game. So you don't have to worry about putting USC in if you're the committee and then having a backup be the quarterback for USC and just having that be a debacle. So if you're USC, you can make the argument, well, if Caleb Williams doesn't get hurt, I should say, in an extra game that Ohio State's not playing, could you sit here and make the argument that if Caleb Williams is 100% healthy, USC wins the game? I could see that. Now, the defense, it's not stopping the defense from missing tackles, but again, all Caleb Williams done all season long is bail out the team by scoring, 40, 45, 48 points. So maybe he could have done that again and won. But you know what, I'll tell you this. Even if they lose, they're not losing by 23 points the way they just lost on Friday night. So I think actually the Caleb Williams injury could help make the case easier for USC to get in compared to if he was fully healthy, played, didn't have health as a factor, and they still lost by 23 points. And again, kind of watching how he was moving around and was able to basically finish the game, I'm going to presume since it's December 3rd and the semifinals don't get started until New Year's Eve on December 31st, let's just, for argument's sake, say a month. I think in that month time, he'll be able to recover and be, again, as close to 100% as possible in that game. So you don't have to worry about, having a backup quarterback play for USC and having that just be a bloodbath. So I'm curious your thoughts here. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. When you look at now USC losing, does it open the door for Ohio State? I don't think so. Again, I don't think USC should be penalized for playing an extra game that Ohio State couldn't qualify in. And I don't think the Buckeyes deserve the benefit of the doubt for how they've played this season, that if they were in their own conference championship game, that a similar outcome wouldn't happen. So since we'll never know how Ohio State would fare in a rematch versus Michigan, I'm not ready to sit here, and I don't think from what I've seen so far this season through 12 games that I can definitively give the Buckeyes the benefit of the doubt saying, oh yeah, they definitely beat Michigan a week later. I don't think they could. But because we'll never know, I don't think you can give the Buckeyes the benefit of the doubt and penalize USC for, again, being the better team in the regular season and being good enough to qualify for an extra game that, again, Ohio State could not qualify for.